Hey guys, so I realize I haven't uploaded a video in quite some time. That is mostly due to my current editing situation being less than ideal. It's a bit of a painful experience to edit video on my current computer. But I have intermittent access to a better computer, and so I will intermittently be making more videos. I hope. I say that hesitantly. I'll spare you the technical details, but I have to periodically repair this better computer in order to be able to use it. So I've been procrastinating, obviously, and making new videos. But I'd like to get back into it. And I'd like to start with this video in which I talk about something that I won't say it's overlooked in deduction, because deductionists definitely make use of it, but it's important to be mindful of this concept in order to use it to its fullest potential. And that is the natural state of things, the natural order of things. Basically, as deductionists, we're always looking for the ways in which things have been altered, and the clues that are left behind by a person, the way they change their environment, and the way their environments change them. And I'd say most of your deduction is going to take place in this particular sphere. But sometimes it's just as important to look for what hasn't been changed from the natural order. What isn't different? And an example might be take footprints in the snow, for example. You see footprints in the snow, this means someone's walked through the snow. What if you see no footprints? That means someone hasn't walked through the snow. Now, does that mean that you have less information? Not necessarily. I'd say in most cases it's more important to know that someone has walked somewhere than it is to know that they haven't. But that's not always the case. Sometimes knowing they haven't walked somewhere is just as useful. And so it's important to know the natural state of things, and the natural state of snow is to remain undisturbed. Something has to come out of its way to disturb the snow. The snow needs to be altered. And this could apply to many things, such as dust on a bookshelf. Let's say you've got a book with dust on it, or some object with dust on it. It's an object that is not used frequently, or is not interacted with frequently, because the natural state is for dust to collect on things on a shelf. Now, you could dust the shelves and get all of the dust off of those objects. Take also, for example, dust creating a pattern on the shelf where there is no, you dust and then you have where there is no dust. This is an example of the natural order of things, the natural state being altered by something, an object. That object has been removed, but the indication of it remains on the shelf. And one that I saw the other day, and what prompted me to make this video, about 4 days ago, we had some freezing rain, and so a couple days after that, it hadn't been raining for a couple days after that, and it had been below freezing. The ice on the streets melted like the first day after the freezing rain, so the streets were not icy for those couple days, but there was ice in some other places. Now, what was interesting was I was walking down the street and I saw a pickup truck, and all along the underside of the running board on the pickup truck were icicles, some of them about like this long. And over the tires, the icicles extended down and onto the tire. They connected with the tire. Now, that would not be possible for that to still be that way if someone had driven this vehicle in the 2 days since we had had freezing rain. So the natural state of things is for this ice to remain where it is. It has not been disturbed. This tells me somebody has not driven this vehicle. Now, it wasn't a weekend, and so the question is, why did they not drive the vehicle? Now, this was of no importance, obviously, or I would have gone into it. There were no other indications as to why this vehicle had not been driven. It was just the middle of the week, and a vehicle not having been driven for 2 days doesn't mean anything of importance. But it does mean, at least, that the vehicle has not been driven. It's an indication of when something has not been altered from its natural state. Now, obviously, this is more useful when you know the natural state of things. Now, some things, you can already tell what the natural state is going to be. For example, you already know, in general, dust collects on things. But if you know the natural way that something is, then you can notice when something is different about it. And this can often be more specific. Like, for example, when you know how a certain person behaves, or if you know that that a person parks their car in a particular spot, every day, I know people like that who will park their car in exactly the same spot in their driveway every day. My neighbor, for example, that he's got a long driveway that extends down, turns both left and right, and he always parks in one particular direction, except when he doesn't. And when he doesn't, then I know that he's got company coming over. And this was easy to tell. I mentioned it to my brother once, that he parked his car on the other side. I mentioned to Cage he's going to have company over later. Sure enough, later on there were a couple of other cars parked in the side of the driveway where he normally parks his truck. And so this is an example of how if you know the natural state of things, then when it's altered, you can tell that something is different. But I digress, because mainly this was supposed to be about noticing when things haven't been changed. Another example that I want to go into real quick before wrapping up this video is that things that people use more often tend to be at the front of the front of the shelf, the front of wherever they are, easier to reach. People don't tend to take objects and put them deliberately in the back of the shelf. They tend to put them back where it's easiest. This is the natural way things work. So, for example, if an object is in the back of a shelf, that's the natural place for an object that hasn't been used in a while, because people tend to put things in front of it. There are exceptions to the rule, as there are exceptions to all rules, but this is just an example of how that might be altered. So, like I said, I'd like to get into making videos again. I'd like to go into some deduction methodology, if possible. I'd also like to work on my deduction, my cryptology videos. But also, and I don't want to tread on practical deduction's territory here, but I might make some deduction tip videos, because I have a bunch of different ideas that I can't really stretch out into one video, and so I might just take them and put them into one video every now and then. When I get ideas, just write them down, lay them all out in one video. Speaking of practical deduction, go check out Practical Deduction and Jordan at The Art of Deduction. I'll put links to their channels. They upload way more often than I do, so go subscribe to them. And thank you very much for watching this video, and I hope to see you very soon.